Life as We Know It with Tom Walton.
After a couple of years watching other parts of America deal with the devastation of natural disasters, folks in our area should be happy to acknowledge that, all things considered, Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan are relatively safe areas to call home. Let's take a little inventory here of the human misery inflicted on our fellow citizens elsewhere in the land, folks whose zip codes do not start with a 4. Hurricanes? It seems the southern seaboard has seen more of them the last few years than I can recall from earlier times. If that's just my imagination, maybe it's because the hurricanes that have struck the mainland have been more vicious, more damaging, more life-threatening than they used to be. Hurricanes are the only acts of nature which get a name. Hurricane Beryl, Hurricane Florence, Hurricane Michael, among others. Florence and Michael qualified as monster storms, terrorizing much of the southern United States and eastern seaboard. The lives lost and the property damage are difficult for most of us to wrap our brains around. How about floods? Monster storms often produce monster flooding, taking lives and livelihoods without regard for one's station in life. We occasionally get flooded rivers and streams in our area. Finley and the Blanchard River come to mind. But it's nothing like what we occasionally see after a nor'easter in New England or a ruptured levee in New Orleans. As for earthquakes, when was the last time you felt one here in Toledo? Fact is, we do get earthquakes, but most of them we never feel, and rarely do they cause any damage. Contrast that with California, where the prospect of the big one is something every citizen lives with every day. Scientists are convinced it's only a matter of time before California is hit with a calamitous earthquake along the San Andreas Fault. I lived for 14 years just a few miles from the San Andreas along the central California coast, and I will never forget the anxiety I felt every time a small tremor occurred. As if that were not enough for residents of the Golden State, how about fires? As we saw last fall, fire whipped by gale-strength winds and fed by dry conditions can wipe out entire communities. The city of Paradise, California, used to be a pleasant Northern California town that was home to 26,000 people. Now it just isn't there anymore because the so-called Camp Fire consumed it. Far to the south, the Woolsey Fire took weeks to contain, but not before ravaging the homes of the rich and famous in the upscale coastal community of Malibu. When the fires were out, the rains came, and so did the mudslides. How many times have we sat in the comfort of our own living rooms and watched the sorrow of our fellow citizens trying to pick up the pieces of their lives after something so horrible? So you might be asking, what about tornadoes? Do we in our area not live with the threat every spring of a storm system so capricious it can appear and disappear within minutes, destroying much of whatever is in its path? Yes, we certainly do. But everything here is relative. The path of a tornado might be a quarter-mile wide. The path of a killer hurricane can cover hundreds of miles. The point here is not to suggest that those who have chosen to live in the path of natural disasters, such as hurricanes, floods, earthquakes, and fires, have chosen poorly. But I think we can make the point that those of us who have chosen to live here have chosen wisely.
Life as We Know It is written and hosted by Tom Walton and is a production of WGTE Public Media. Life as We Know It with Tom Walton can be heard on WGTE FM 91 every Monday afternoon during All Things Considered at 5:44 p.m. or hear past episodes at wgte.org/life.